Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and everybody else all across the world, welcome to the first ever episode of the Screen and Pitch Project brought to you by your hosts, MGK and.
Tayal.
So, Tayal, in 4 words or more, why don't you tell our millions of listeners, our thousands of viewers, and our 5 friends why you decided to start this podcast with me?
Well, I think the key part is the with you part to see, because I believe the world deserves your insights and your humor, and I'm just a conduit to facilitate that. The world does not lack podcasts or soccer podcasts, but it definitely lacks Karthik and Karthik soccer podcasts.
Yeah, no, fair. For me, the reason I said 4 words or more is because for me, it's all ego, no talent, right? I just want to be famous, but I don't have any faculties to do so. Uh,
Yes,
I mean, no pressure. Honestly, I'm just doing this podcast for fun because I think we have really fun, random conversations. Yeah, so I think it's a good way for us to express our creativity, considering that neither of us can really like sing or play instruments and stuff.
or
So
play actual football at a professional level. So,
yeah, yeah, nowhere near, right? So cool. This podcast is actually not just going to be about soccer. Today we're talking about soccer or football. We'll talk about TV
converted
shows.
you to soccer already.
Oh, I mean, hey, we have a global audience, right? Like I said, millions of listeners, thousands of viewers, and 5 friends. Yeah, so it's not just going to be about football, soccer. It's going to be about like TV shows. It's going to be about randoms. But today it is going to be about football, right? And more specifically about the Premier League. What we decided to do for our first ever episode is to do an all-time Premier League 11, and we're going to draft it. Before we get in, I think it's safe to say that neither of us are like experts. It's going to be biased towards post 2000, 2003, 4 players because that's what we've seen. We might have some club allegiances. I think we're fairly balanced, folks, and it's not going to be like, oh, we're not going to say like Alex Song is better than Michael Essien. You're not going to hear stuff like that. But, you know, there will be bias. There will be some oversight. So if you were an all-time Premier League player in the 90s and you don't get into this Premier League 11, please don't think that it's, sullying your legacy in any way because it's not.
I would say it is selling your legacy, but deal with it.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, deal with it. Yeah, there's more to life, right? Maybe some other podcast by some boomer is gonna keep you in the all-time 11, right? But not as millennials. Cool. Before that, I would like to just give a shout out to our sponsors. This episode of the Screen and Pitch Project is proudly sponsored by the Chuck Chucker Fast Bowling Academy. Chuck Chucker Fast Bowling Academy. You can be L, G, B, T, or Q, but we'll make sure that your elbow is straight.
This is what that Indian guy teaching Dale Steyn to bowl outside 5 minutes from my
Oh
apartment
yeah.
should have used.
Oh shit! Yeah, I think he should. I think he can take this name, right?
Yeah,
By the way, all sponsors till further notice on this podcast are completely fictitious. So if you happen to be Chuck Chucker Fast Bowling Academy, please don't sue us, right?
or maybe partner with us.
Maybe partner with us. Yeah, I mean, like give us money, guys. I mean, we'll
Yeah,
never say no to money. Um, I mean, unless it involves like killing people or something, because I don't think we'll
hmm.
succeed in killing them.
Yeah,
Moral implications aside.
yeah. More our lack of ability than our lack of moral character.
Yeah, pretty much. Cool. So, like I mentioned, this is going to be a draft. Tayal, why don't you tell our friends and listeners how this is going to work?
Sure. So, all-time Premier League draft. So, we're drafting based on the player's Premier League career. So, it's the overall career, not just picking a particular season of a player. I know that's probably going to come up with some of the players that we end up discussing, but we're really looking for the whole breadth of their Premier League career. It's going to be a serpentine draft, which means whoever gets the first pick picks once, and then the second pick gets picked two and three. Then the next person gets picks four and five, and we keep going back and forth until we get to our 11 players. Um, and the 11 players will then be put into a formation, and we'll judge and discuss both teams based on their overall ability.
So how about this? What logic are you using, or what is your approach towards building your
Hmm.
11? Obviously, we'll all have plans, and then you'll have to react to depending on if I pick somebody and vice versa. But what's your general strategy going in?
Trying to get inside my mind already. I like it. I like it. I think I was looking at it in two ways. One is, okay, who are the players that really stood out relative to the others at their position? So looking for players where there isn't like an easy replacement to find. And then another aspect is also like how would what players offer a little bit more flexibility. So I think there are a couple of players who give you a lot of flexibility in who you're drafting afterwards. It'll
Yeah,
be interesting to see if they get chosen first over players
yeah,
with superior statistics or performance.
yeah. No, I think I'm very aligned on the first point. I'm trying to pick players for whom I feel like there's not a lot of debate on who the number one in their position is.
Yeah,
My other thing is just vibes, because if I've sort of thought of like a nice intro for them, I'm like, oh, I want to. They take precedence just because I spent time like crafting an intro for you, and the least you can do is be in my team. Cool. Without further ado, do we want to get into rock paper scissors,
let's
or
do it.
yeah? So best of one or best of three?
Best of three. Got
Okay,
to
cool.
add to the drama.
Yeah, it's gonna add to the drama. Okay, cool. So hands up in the air and wave him like you just
Like you
don't
don't
care.
care. Okay,
Yeah,
yep.
okay. Cool. Rock,
Rock, paper,
paper,
scissors,
scissors,
shoot.
go. Shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rock,
Rock, paper,
paper, scissors,
scissors,
shoot.
shoot. Oh God.
Yes, 2-0. What a
2 and
start.
0. What a start.
Auspicious start. 2-0,
Yes.
the most dangerous lead in football,
Yeah,
apparently.
yeah. Go for it, bro. So your first Premier League player pick.
So, with the number one pick in the all-time Premier League draft, I feel like I have to do this because otherwise I wouldn't be a good friend or a good person overall. I will be going with Thierry Henry, one of the most beautiful players to ever grace the Premier League pitches, has had an incredible career, the majority of which was in the Premier League, which also helps him out versus a couple of others. And the cherry on the cake is, of course, he is probably the person who made my co-host fall in love with the game. So getting to steal him right at the start is an additional
Ah,
joy.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, right? All Premier League drafts, the toss is just to see who gets to pick Thierry Henry. He is the greatest Premier League player of all time, the greatest Arsenal player of all time, in my opinion, the greatest French player of all time. Um, the greatest YouTube comps player of all time, right? You guys, if you go check out his YouTube comps, this man had serious, to use a Gen Z term, Riz. This guy had charisma for days. He was oozing it on the pitch. Just the sheer arrogance, the elegance, the pace. I mean, The Rock is not the most electrifying guy in sports and entertainment. This guy in his peak was. And Thierry Henry in the 2000s taught every teenage boy that just leaning your body to the left and caressing your balls just beyond fingertips reach is the best kind of finish. The man is so good that he has an open play goal finish named after him. That's just how good he was at getting into that position and finishing. Yeah, I mean, greatest Premier League player of all time. Just so good. My favorite player of all time. Your favorite player of all time. Everybody's favorite player of all time, if they whether they like it or not. It's Thierry Henry. I mean, yeah. You get first pick. You take Thierry Henry. So no,
Hard
yeah,
not to take him, versatile enough, but
yeah,
just that creativity on the pitch, the
yeah,
ability to do everything that you want from a striker
yeah,
or a winger,
yeah,
pace, shooting, physicality.
yeah.
Um, I think the Carragher highlight is probably still my one of my favorite highlights ever.
Oh yeah, no. My favorite is the Real Madrid goal because he just
Hmm.
shoves half the team out.
Yep.
Um, this is something I was actually going to bring up if he was my pick, but I still want to call this out because people like to claim that he's not a big game player. So I looked this up. In 8 seasons at Arsenal, he had 8 goals and 4 assists against Manchester United, which is the Man City of the modern era.
Yep.
He was man of the match in the 2000 Euros final. He basically dragged us to the 2006 Champions League final, even though we didn't win it. But like that team should not have been in the 2006 Champions League final. Trust me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's a very black and white accusation that's laid against him just because he didn't score in a lot of finals, but he performed in a lot of finals. Um, but yeah, Thierry Henry, right?
Hmm.
Greatest, the goat of the
Yes.
Premier League. Cool. So I get picks 2 and 3. So for 35 million to Anfield, they did bring a pharaoh who leaves defenders tutting.
Yeah. Not bad.
They grab onto his shirt and hopelessly cling. But FPL or IRL, our man always brings chuching. Vivek Ramasamy, bro, this is how brown guys should be loving the right wing. But let's cut through the strings. Because here's the thing. Atop the football pyramid, in all his bling bling, stands alone just one Egyptian king,
King.
and his name is Mohammed Salah. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, Mohammed Salah the is the guy who's held the most records that have not been held since Thierry Henry. That's who he is, right? He is he is the 2010s version of Thierry Henry. Um, except he's not as good. Okay, let me get that out of the way, right? He's not as good, he's not as dynamic, but what he is deadly, right? He puts fear into whoever is playing up against him. Um, the Liverpool side of the last 5-6 years would have won a lot more titles had it not been for Man City, but they wouldn't have come close to even winning or competing without Mohamed Salah. Um, the numbers that this guy's put up throughout the last 6-7 seasons, just it's insane, right? You can be a central striker, you can be a winger, you can from anywhere on the pitch. Those numbers are insane, and I think we're desensitized to these kind of numbers because we lived in the Messi and Ronaldo era. But trust me, these are not normal numbers that this guy puts up year on year. The greatest FPL player of all time, right? When in doubt, Captain Salah has been a mantra of mine for the last so many years. I'm not the greatest FPL player, but it's a mantra that often works. Uh, but yeah, I mean, just a phenomenal player.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing him when he first came to the Premier League and played for Chelsea, and he was just getting shoved, and it looked like he would just never have the physicality to play in the Premier League. And then somehow this guy comes back from Roma and is just unstoppable. And every single season, I think one of the things about Salah is absurd consistency.
Yeah,
Like, to a lot of great players are judged by how consistent they are, but like he's taken it to a different level of like every single season he performs, every single season, you know he's gonna put up the numbers. There's almost never like a dip in form. Plays, yeah, plays in
pretty
big
much every
games.
game.
Yeah, plays pretty much every game. Never, hardly ever injured. Always there. And then, but I am surprised that he was the number two pick.
Yeah, no, I had this rhyme for him, so I was like, and plus, like, I couldn't really think of any person who could really occupy the right wing who's
Mm,
got the legacy and the sheer credentials that Salah does. Like on the left, there are
yeah,
candidates. For example, for striker, there are candidates. So the right wing, I felt like this guy is undisputed number one there, right?
yeah,
Cool.
no, that's fair.
My number two pick and overall number three. Um, his dome glows bright in the floodlights tonight, not a dirty sheet to be seen. In the pantheon of Premier League left backs, it looks like his king. The ref's whistle's blowing 'cause he just played you miles offside. Wingers can't cut in, the ball just rolls outside. Can beat him with skill, can beat him with pace. For 5K more, he'd have stayed with us. What a disgrace. He turned from red into blue. A day we'd rue. Ashley Cole, Chelsea legend and invincible. Ashley Cole, the diamond of generation gold. He don't care how you're going to play. Patrice, Eric, and Bonbon. Ronaldo never bothered him anyway.
Oh,
It's
wow.
Ashley Cole, greatest Premier League left back of all time, arguably one of the greatest left backs of all time,
Of
right?
all time.
Yeah, just up there with your Maldini, Roberto Carlos, whoever, right? I personally I'm a Roberto Carlos guy. I think he's just insane. But yeah, Ashley Cole is just beacon of consistency. Left hand side on lock. Great attacking fullback in the Arsenal sort of Invincibles era with Perez and Henry. Great sort of defensive, sound fullback for Chelsea in their 2006 to 2000 whatever 13-14 era.
Yep.
Diamond of generation gold. Without him, they'd have been far worse off. And yeah, just a fantastic player.
Yeah, what a shocking pick at number three. I don't think anybody was thinking left back at number three, but
No, I
I
made the
was.
song for him, so I was like, I'm picking this guy because if I don't get to sing this song for him, I will regret it.
Yes. And I was going to have taken him in one of my next two picks, just
Oh,
because
thank
I
God.
think the gulf between Ashley Cole and the second best left back, I think, is the biggest out of any position
Yep.
that is there in today's draft, because there's nobody really close to him. And one of the interesting things looking back is the best player in the world has rarely been in the Premier League over the last. I think a lot of that is just Messi and Ronaldo. And the best player at their position sometimes also is not in the Premier League, but with Ashley Cole, there's no debate. Goal line clearances, assists, defending the right wing. It would have been fun to see him defend Salah.
Yeah, it
Um,
would have been fun to see him defend Salah. I think it would have been
always,
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He had the pace. He had basically everything you could ask for. Showed up. Incredibly just sound player. And I think between the two eras, the other thing that you could really see is you could play him as an attacking fullback. You could play him as a defensive, more sturdy fullback. Either
Yeah.
way performs. Um, and incredible song. Ronaldo yeah, one of the few players where you could trust him to leave him one on one with, especially Manchester United Ronaldo.
Yeah. Who was not bad, to say the
No,
least.
no. Who I would be surprised. Let's see where he goes in the draft.
Yeah. Cool. It's over to you for.
Hmm. So now with pick number four, so we have so far gotten through a striker, a right wing, and a left back. I'm going to look at picking who I think is probably the best overall attacking midfielder in Premier League history, and that is Kevin De Bruyne.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he was going to
Oh,
be my next pick. So,
okay. Um, one of I mean, Manchester City has dominated this last era of the Premier League, and their best player has been throughout Kevin De Bruyne, creative genius, just does things on a football pitch which nobody else can really do, sees passes that nobody else really sees, executes them consistently. Again, another great Chelsea wonder kid who spent
yeah.
probably not enough time at Chelsea.
Yeah.
But similar to Salah, was at Chelsea, left, came back, and
Yeah.
completely ran the league. Um, Even this season, you could see once KDB comes back,
Yeah.
everything just settles down.
Yeah. Yeah. Once KDB came back, the league was done. Like,
It
as
was
good as
over.
we were,
Yes.
it was done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was another guy I had something written down for. Nothing in rhyme this time, but it is a WWE reference. I don't know if you will
Okay.
know this one, but basically, when he started his Premier League career, he was branded undesirable.
Yeah.
He went away, plied his trade, and came back to become undeniable. And over the course of his Premier League career, he's very well proven that the claim that he's the best midfielder this league has seen is undisputed. Yeah, this is a Cody Rhodes sort of quote thingy, but yeah, it applies to KDB. Man, what a player! Just insane, right? So good. Um, I think if if he was fit for like you know pretty much all the time that he's been here, he could have probably, or we would have probably broken the assist record that Ryan Giggs has.
Yeah. I mean, just I guess, and I think it's good that it's his Premier League career because I feel like he's not been as dominant for his national team for Belgium, but when it comes to City, Pep system, Premier League dominance, unmatched. And
Yeah,
and depending on how long his career goes, I think he could easily end up being one of the most frequent non-Giggs Premier League winners of all time. I mean, Giggs is at 13 times, so it's going to take a while to get to Giggs.
yeah.
But yeah, everyone else in that non-United realm, KDB is definitely an all-time legend. Yeah, it was a reasonably easy pick, I felt, at this stage. And now for pick number five. For this pick, I'm going to go with who I actually would have liked to be the highest goal scorer in Premier League history. I'm going to go with Harry Kane. While there are some other players who are closer to my heart who I would have loved to pick in this position, especially one very influential big game Ivorian player.
Mm.
It's hard to deny Harry Kane's career with Tottenham. I mean, you can deny winning things, but apart from that, he did everything else on the pitch.
Yeah,
Incredible goal scorer, can score either foot, head, but I think what gets missed sometimes is how insanely good he is on the ball and
yeah.
how he would open up things for Son and really facilitate as well. Can drop a little deep. So I'm really enjoying the Harry Kane Thierry Henry partnership. Both of them can facilitate, can kind of drop deep, pick up the ball, carry the ball, pass the ball. Yeah, played for the wrong team, unfortunately. Apart from that, really can't blame his career.
Whether he's in the penalty box or he's at the half circle, halfway line. He's equally dangerous,
Yep.
and it's not because he's going to dribble through you, but it's just he's so intelligent and he's so good with what he wants to do on the ball, off the ball. And again, right, like you said this about Salah. Harry Kane's produced crazy numbers
Uh,
year on year on year on year, right? It's not a one off. It's not like he's got a couple of seasons here and there.
yeah, wish he had stayed and gotten that all-time Premier League record. It was
Yeah,
almost a certainty if he had just stayed probably 2 or 3
yeah,
more years.
cool. So it's over to me now. I think I'm gonna pick the greatest player to have played in the Premier League, but not necessarily the greatest Premier League
Mhm.
player. But he had a fantastic Premier League career. Like, don't get me
Yeah,
wrong. It's just that he hit such crazy heights when he went to Real Madrid that his Manchester United career is slept on. But I would say, you know, the Manchester United version of Cristiano Ronaldo, who is my pick, is the most entertaining one because he had so much skill, so much pace. And by the time the 2006 to 2008, Ronaldo is a phenomenon.
yeah,
Right, 2006-7, he wasn't scoring as many goals. Like he got like into double digits from what I remember. But 2007-8, he had that all-timer season. 2008-9, he was a little petulant about staying at United, but he still had a fantastic season. But even before that, right, what he brought um, to the Premier League. I mean, we had players like JJ Okocha and stuff like that who were really skillful, but you didn't have a player of that caliber at the very top end of the Premier League, where it was usually a lot more thunder and blast. Like even Thierry Henry, very skillful player, but wasn't really a showboating trickster kind of player. Whereas Ronaldo was an entertainer, right? For the first few seasons he was here, he was just entertaining people. He would get kicked, he would get beaten up, he would get roughed up, but he would stand back up and he would keep going at it. Again, like it's easy to say it looking back now after all that he's done, but his sort of never say die crazy winners mentality was evident even then when he was a kid. And then he sort of evolved into a man, right? And he became the goal scoring winger,
yeah,
the Premier League player, um, of the mid 2000s, or like mid to late 2000s, whatever you want to call it, right? And yeah, he never replicated those free kicks on a consistent basis after that couple of seasons, but those couple of seasons when he was doing those
oh
knuckleball
yeah,
free kicks, that was a sight to behold. Those were scary things. I remember against Arsenal, Champions League semi-final 2008-9. Almunia should have saved it, but he had the ball like 40 yards out towards like the right side of the pitch, and even to get it on target from there with that kind of pace is not easy. And Ronaldo was a beast. And the beast that you saw against Messi, for that entire decade or whatever at Real Madrid, that beast was really sort of forged in 3-4 seasons at Manchester United. But in terms of the peaks he hit and in terms of the impact he had when he was at his pomp, he's up there with anyone else, right? So
yeah.
yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo is going to my left wing.
With Mo Salah and Ronaldo.
Yeah,
No, yeah, I think, and he still did. I think 6 seasons in the Premier League, so it
yeah,
wasn't like it was just a couple like someone like Suarez where they were at that level. I think my favorite Ronaldo goal is probably the Champions League goal against Porto, where he just shoots it from
oh
like
yeah,
35, 40 yards, and you're like, why is he even shooting it from there?
yeah,
And then it's just a freaking missile that goes in. Um, Undeniable player, probably a lot more, in some ways, even more fun to watch in his United days,
yeah,
where there's like this brashness, recklessness, like I can do anything I want and you
yeah,
can do nothing about it. Part of the fun is scoring, but also part of the fun is completely embarrassing your opponent and trying to pull their pants down. And Ronaldo, I think, did that better than anybody else ever in the Premier League.
yeah.
Um, I mean, you get like people like Zaha and all now, but Ronaldo would produce and embarrass his opponents while producing.
Yeah, Ronaldo was a different level. Next, right? He was the marshal of the greatest defense that this league has ever seen. He is the greatest centre back that this league has ever seen, right? He's
Yeah,
not a great person if you
damn.
sort of go by his
Yes.
personal life and stuff like that. Um, he might also, one day come onto this podcast in full kit, but he can do whatever he wants, man. Because like, um, this guy was a phenomenal defender. Blood and guts and thunder. He wasn't bad on the ball, but what you really wanted him for was to just make sure that nobody can get past the goalkeeper. 15 Premier League goals in a season. I mean, that's testament to the entire back unit, and it's a record that is really hard to break. This guy was, like I said, the marshal of that defense. Um, he was the one guy whom you hated because he wasn't on your team, but let's be honest, you really wanted him on your team, right? It's John George Terry. I think that's his middle name, right? I think so. But
It
yeah,
is, it
yeah.
is. I
Greatest
am
center back in
quite
the Premier League.
shocked by this pick, but yeah, was not
No.
expecting this.
So I know it's also a bit of a dagger in the heart of my fine friend there. Um, yeah. John Terry is my center back and very possibly the captain of my team.
Hmm. Yeah, no. I mean, club captain legend, absolute all-time uh, Chelsea legend. Probably might have even been our most invaluable player in some ways because he just set a tone and a discipline that, especially with all the revolving doors at Chelsea, things could have always slipped, and his leadership played a huge part. Of course, we make fun of him for the Champions League final, but he was always there for the team, and even at I forgot how old he was, like 33 in the last Mourinho season, still
Yeah.
performing at a high level as a center back, that, despite his lack of pace, was always there, and also came up with quite a few goals,
Goals. Yeah.
much more than you would expect. Like it is Terry's decent ability with his left foot and his goal scoring kind of went unnoticed
Yeah.
because he was just came off as such a physical kind of brute who's going to make the last ditch tackle on every single play.
And he would,
Between
but he would
yeah,
also do this.
he would also do that. Yeah, between Terry and Cole, just seeing players who are willing to put their body on the line every single time. And yeah, Arsenal had an incredible defensive season this year. 29 goals, almost double what Chelsea conceded, which is just an insane thing to think about. That such a good defensive season was still almost double the goals that Chelsea team conceded. So no qualms with the pick, just surprised with because of the number of center back options.
There are a lot of great centre back options, but he is the greatest centre back option. So, you know,
I do agree. No
yeah,
disagreement here.
yeah.
Um, I feel
Over to
like
you.
I have to make this pick as revenge.
Yeah,
So a legend, someone who could run the pitch in both directions, complete stalwart defensively, but incredible at carrying the ball forward as well. The spine of the Invincibles,
yeah,
I think the most complete defensive midfielder. I think there might have been arguments for other people who might do a certain thing better, but nobody comes close to the full package. Maybe Yaya Toure for a season. But Yaya Toure did it for a season, and this man did it for an entire career, and that is Patrick Vieira. Incredible, just brute force on the football pitch, made other people look like they were in school sometimes, the way that he could just shrug them off. There's something about just someone who has that level of force and just makes other people look like they don't even know what they're doing. Um, and Spine for the Invincibles just didn't feel like there's anybody else who's really at that level. And since you took John Terry, feel like this is
yeah,
the perfect counter pick in
yeah.
Patrick
No,
Vieira.
it is. It is. Yeah, I mean, Patrick Vieira is, yeah, I think arguably the most complete midfielder to have played in the Premier League. Yeah, just pace, power, skill, press resistance. sheer dominance, right? Like, I mean, this dude, this like aura is, I
Yeah,
think,
aura.
aura.
Exactly.
Just the
Yeah.
aura. Like nobody before or since, doesn't matter which position, has that aura. I think the closest, honestly, are like peak Cristiano, peak Henri. But even they, I mean, they have aura. Don't get me wrong, but Patrick Vieira had an aura. Like, you would fear for your life playing against Patrick Vieira. Like, it's like he's gonna kill you without even realizing that he killed you. Like
Yeah.
just like shrug you aside and you're dead, because he's just that physically imposing and
That
scary.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
And to add to that physical tone, I'm going to add Virgil, Big Verge, Van Dyke. We're gonna have quite a, I think around KDB, we're gonna just surround him with physicality at all positions.
yeah,
So Virgil van Dijk transformed the Liverpool team, made 80 million, I think.
75. Yeah,
75 million seem reasonable, which is not an easy thing to do.
yeah,
I think maybe along with Salah, probably the most irreplaceable players of the Klopp era.
yeah,
Um, the tricky thing I think with center back is there are four or five good options, so it doesn't really feel like there's that much of separation between them.
yeah,
But to me, Terry and Van Dyke are the two that stood out the most.
yeah,
But there are a couple more, so that was the only thing with this pick is do you go for something where there's less players, or do you go for someone who's just was the best in the world for a couple of
yeah,
years at
yeah,
his position?
yeah. I think in terms of peaks that centre backs hit in the Premier League era, Van Dijk is pretty much up there. I think him and Terry are like
Yeah.
there. I think,
Even though the dribble past stats are complete jokes
yeah,
made up by weird Liverpool fans, but
yeah.
yeah,
He's another guy who has aura, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, fantastic player.
Yeah, your
Um,
team is gonna come down the middle running through Vieira and Van Dijk and then
yeah,
turn around.
I mean, maybe because or not because my first midfield pick actually is going to be now. Is a guy like Harry Kane. Didn't really win a Premier League title, but it's not really his fault. But he made up for it with a few Champions League titles, right? This guy had main anime protagonist energy. Patrick Vieira's probably bigger and stronger. KDB's got more refinement to his game, but this guy just had so much spirit to what he did. In a one-to-one game, you would back this guy. You would back this guy to take on anybody in the world, and he could play deep lying. He could play as a 10. He could play as an 8. He could play as whatever. Long passes, short passes, tackling, just covering ground, but long shots, insane long shots. If there's a footballer who could legit go Super Saiyan, it would be this guy. It's Steven Gerrard, right? Um, it didn't matter how many evolutions Liverpool went through. Steven Gerrard was always there, and he was always amongst the top 3 to 5 best midfielders in the country, season after season after season, and just like just putting up crazy performances and numbers and just yeah, running the show for Liverpool, right? Liverpool would have fallen off hard in the 2000s without Steven Gerrard. Because I mean, it was like at one point of time after like Alonso and Mascherano left, it was Steven Gerrard and John Joe Shelby and Jay Spearing or something. Do you remember Jay Spearing?
Yeah. The
Yeah,
partnerships he had to deal with is kind
yeah,
of incredible. It was
yeah,
probably the best one-man show you would have to see where
yeah,
someone could was running it both defensively, passing, getting in the box, long shots.
yeah,
Some of his like 30-second clips are some of the most ridiculous clips where he makes like a bone-crushing tackle, then makes like a cross the pitch switches play, and then also insane first touch. Just what a player.
yeah, yeah. Fantastic player. Um, my second pick is um, FPL legend, um, Chelsea legend, greatest goal scoring midfielder in Premier League history.
You're
Um,
really gonna pair the two of them?
yeah, that's what I was coming to get to, right? I feel like I know how to bring the best out of them, which is give them their zones, right? Keep Gerrard slightly more withdrawn. Gerrard is your 8. We play a little bit, we play him a little bit more conservatively. Whereas this guy can just, slink into the box with his incredible sense of timing, hit a couple of deflected goals. Doesn't matter. right? Because it's going to go
Yeah.
in, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to go in. Like it's not going to be deflected outside. That's a superpower. Um, I think he's one of the most underrated Premier League players. I'll be honest, because like people think he's a penalty and free kick and deflection merchant, but he scored like 15, 20 goals season after season after season from midfield, and he didn't neglect midfield duties because you can't neglect midfield duties in a Chelsea midfield
No.
that had Jose Mourinho managing it. I don't think people realize this. Um, yeah, I think in terms of legacy, and when people look at stats, they're like, oh, of course, Frank Lampard is a great, but no, you guys had to watch him play to realize how good this guy was. So intelligent. I think that's the key to beating players like Van Dijk and Patrick Vieira, right? You might not, he's not gonna get into a tackle contest with Patrick Vieira, but he's going to slink up behind him when he least expects it and score a couple of goals, and Patrick Vieira can then tackle him after that. But hey, 2-0 up, right? So yeah, Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard are my midfield pairing.
I definitely did not see this coming. My whole thing was based on a three-man midfield of
Yeah,
Vieira, Lampard, and KDB.
that was my
Vieira,
three-man midfield as well. It would have
uh,
been Lampard or Gerrard. So I was like,
Lampard or
yeah,
Gerrard. Yeah,
yeah,
my whole setup was okay. I think the person you're least likely to pick is Lampard, so I'll get KDB and Vieira so that I can get Lampard
no,
after
no.
them.
I think I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, over to you.
Yeah, no way. Yes, that was a great pick. I think even looking a little bit at who's available, I think Lampard is one of the few. Is proper world class, proper
Yeah,
consistent, underrated as a passer. I mean, some of the reason
yeah,
why he's I think fifth in all-time assists or somewhere up there
yeah,
is longevity. But yeah, phenomenal footballer, could just produce results every single game. Uh, Even would show up with some absurd goals. I think most of his best plays actually are from the Champions League, a goal against Bayern, the assist to, I think, Ramirez to get us past Barcelona.
yeah,
Uh, Probably my I would say Lampard is my favorite Chelsea player of all time.
yeah,
Um, I have another player who I think is more fun to watch. Terry was the spine, Drogba was the talisman, but
yeah,
Lampard just represented everything about that Chelsea era when it came to winning. Like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
might not look like you're as talented as Gerrard, but you produce at an absurd rate, and you just show up, score, and go home. Like, so uncomplicated as well. But this has definitely thrown off my drafting strategy because that was 100% going to be my next pick. Um,
yeah. I'm glad I could help.
So now, as I scramble a little bit and recheck who I want to go for, I think I will go for some more def as you take all my Chelsea players away from me, some more defensive solidity in terms of Kyle Walker at right back.
Yeah,
So again, I think similar to Ashley Cole, I think he's separated himself from the other right backs in terms of his career. I know there's an argument for a couple of others, but what Kyle Walker has done between Tottenham and City is just absurd.
yeah,
It feels like City gets away with playing the way they do just because of Kyle Walker's pace and his ability to cover so much ground
yeah,
that they can really just push up and just leave him kind of alone with a center back to just put out any fire. And of course, Rodri just tackling people out of nowhere. But
yeah,
that Kyle Walker's pace is crazy. Yes, he doesn't offer. He's probably the most limited player going forward who is in this consideration, but he's just so absurdly good defensively um, that it feels like a miss not to take him. And you can always put him in goal if you need. So very versatile as well.
yeah, yeah. I think in terms of Premier League right backs in all-time list, like Kyle Walker is number one. Right, just phenomenal one-to-one, one-on-one defender. Sheer scary pace, sheer physicality, just so safe. Um, yeah, I mean, just a fantastic player. Always have time for Kyle Walker.
Yeah, exactly. In just incredibly, again, consistent and just a rock at the back.
Yeah,
Doesn't, yeah. And yeah, maybe not the most thoughtful player even on the pitch. He's not going to make that incisive pass, but he's going to stop that incisive pass. So that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Okay, now with my next pick, I think this might be a bit of a surprise, but I think he is the greatest physical force ever in the Premier League. Uh, Someone who achieved his heights maybe for a season or two less, but I think is very similar to a player drafted earlier in a lot of ways in terms of peaking early and then going off to Real Madrid and just being a physical force. Uh, and I can't believe I'm picking so many Tottenham players, but I'm going to go with Gareth Bale.
Okay.
So this is a bit of a wild card, but he was one of my favorite players, favorite non-Chelsea players to watch ever in the Premier League. Just the things he could do on the pitch were crazy. I think his Tottenham career was only, I think, 4 or 5 years, but
No, it was longer, no? I
it
don't
was
know.
longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the peak was really, it
Yeah. The
wasn't like a
peak
very
was, yeah.
extended peak, but one of the greatest physical forces I think I've ever seen. The strength, the speed was just absurd, and I'm clearly building like this physical force of a team
Yeah.
between uh, Bale, Vieira, Van Dijk, Walker, just these absurd physical specimens, and getting someone. The only tricky thing is it's a lot of left footers, but uh, I really wanted Gareth Bale as part of this team.
No, makes sense, right? I think Gareth Bale during that one crazy season he had, I think it was 2010-11,
Yeah,
he was scoring banger after banger after banger
yeah,
from like outside the box. He would just like whip it in. It was like watching a faster Arjen Robben, but with the ball having way more venom. Like, because when
yeah,
Gareth Bale smacked that ball, it stayed smacked. Like
yes,
it was, yeah. Gareth Bale was a demon, and like just like yeah, he's a demon, man. Like
yeah,
scary player, like really scary player. Surprising pick, but I think also speaks to the right wings, the right wing dilemma I was alluding to earlier,
yes.
which is
After Salah, it was a bit tricky
yeah,
to see who do you put on the right wing. I think there
yeah,
are a couple of other options that I was thinking about.
yeah, cool. He had one all-timer season and 6 or 7 really good seasons. Um, you talk about versatility. This guy can play centre back. He can play
Mm,
fullbacks. He can play midfield, 6, 8, 10. He can play striker, and he can play all of these at a very, very high level, and he has done so. Right. I think he's a little underrated. He's again right like Lampard. I think he's underrated, but he's underrated for very different reasons, which is that he's got a few off-field issues like wanting a birthday cake and stuff like that, which I think is a reasonable request. But let me talk about this player, right? Because this guy, much like how you spoke about Patrick Vieira, this guy, when he was on the pitch, nobody could touch him in terms of sheer physical dominance, aura, um, sheer masterful brutality, right?
yeah,
For 8 seasons, and I was looking at this, right? For 8 seasons, this guy was a dominant force in the Premier League. This guy had, I would argue, if not top three, definitely top five craziest sort of seasons in Premier League history. Um, so basically, the player is Yaya Toure. Okay.
yeah,
Um, yeah, Suarez's crazy season was 2013-14. Yaya Toure in that season had 20 goals while playing as a defensive six, as a 6 or an 8, and then occasionally as a 10 when Man City needed it, right? And that's why the reason Liverpool didn't win the Premier League title that season with Luis Suarez doing all of his shenanigans is because Yaya Toure was doing the
was up
exact
there.
same thing,
Yeah,
but from midfield, right? That's the reason they didn't win it that season. Not because Gerrard slipped. It's because Yaya Toure was a demon. Um, like I said, he can play anywhere. He's going to play at the base of my midfield. And he is him and Gerrard and even Lampard. Lampard's not a small man. These guys are, I think, more than an adequate match along with John Terry for the
yeah,
physicality that Van Dijk and Vieira and even KDB, who's not a small guy, bring. But yeah, Yaya Toure, finishing, dribbling, passing, left foot, right foot, you name it, he had it. But he could just he could mold himself to what the team needed. And in that season with Man City, when they needed a goal, they'd say, "Hey, yeah, tell you what, why don't you go play as a 10? Why don't you go play as a forward for some time, and we'll get somebody else to do the defensive dirty work." And then he'd go and score, right? I saw a video where they apparently claimed that he scored those 20 goals that season with like 30 shots on target. which,
Oh
if
wow.
it's true,
Wow.
that
Yeah.
is the most insane stat I've ever heard about anyone in my life. His finishing was crazy. That season,
Yes.
everything was going in. But that wasn't his job, right?
Yeah.
He used to be a defensive and like a connecting eight,
Yeah.
and he was good enough to do the job of two players because he would let David Silva do his thing. Essentially, City's early sort of rise to beat Man United was built on the backs of certain players, one of them chief being Yaya Toure. And again, like I think his legacy is sort of put, even City plays down his legacy just because of his sort of difficult off-field persona. But
Yeah.
as a player, right? 8 fantastic seasons, 7 seasons where he consistently made 25 Premier League appearances.
Okay.
And in all of
Yeah.
those seasons, he scored at least 5 goals from
Yeah.
midfield. So, like I said, I think underrated player. And I was actually comparing him versus Vieira right now. Similar number of assists, but double the goals for Yaya Toure, which I'm not surprised about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the closest player to Patrick Vieira in the Premier League era that we've seen, right? So,
Easily.
uh, yeah, fantastic player. I think, like I said, really underrated, but
Yeah, it's very frustrating. I think sometimes I judge players by how much they annoy me when Chelsea is playing against them,
yeah,
and and Toure was definitely one of those where it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, of course, he's the one who broke up the attack, and he's the one carrying the ball, and there's just nothing. There are these certain players where you're just like, okay, why can't someone just like
kick him.
take the ball from him or kick him or do something. Like you feel a little helpless
Yeah,
just because of their aura and presence. And Vieira and Toure, I think, are like the top of the list in terms of midfielders that way.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, who is your next pick? Because I'm praying that you don't pick one player, but let's see who you
yeah.
go for.
I mean, at this point, I kind of agree with you on there being a lot of high level center backs. So, so I'm going to leave that for a while. And, I'm actually going to go a little further back
Okay.
and pick Petacek.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
Greatest goalkeeper in Premier League history. Again, like part of the crazy
Yes.
defense. Came back after a skull fracture and still, just completely, um, took over like the Chelsea goalkeeper position all over again. Was shit for Arsenal, but that's okay because like we were all shit then. So, but yeah, I mean, he was so good. I mean, I think he was like, I mean, we had like the Premier League had seen Peter Schmeichel and David Seaman and stuff like that, but I think like arguably the greatest goalkeeper in the world for the first time was in the Premier League, and
Yeah.
he was just so good. I mean, he was one of those. He was literally the goalkeeper whom you just you wouldn't really notice that he's there, but when he was needed to make a save, he's going to make it, and it's going to be crazy, and it's just going to be like, how did he make that save? And again, right, period of time where he just had aura, just sheer aura, where you you go if by accident Terry and Carvalho and all those guys let you through to to the goalkeeper. It's better check. What are you gonna do, bro? What are
Yeah.
you gonna do? Score? Good luck. It's not happening. So yeah, I think again, right? Just a phenomenal player. So
Yeah, not much to say. I think the greatest shot stopping goalie in the Premier League.
yeah,
In greatest maybe tied with Courtois because Courtois had an insane performance, but greatest performance in a Champions League final as well from a
yeah,
goalkeeper. Uh, Basically won that Bayern game for us. Absurd. Guessed right on every single penalty, which is still one of the most insane things. Guessing right on all 6 penalties. Um, just phenomenal player, so much size, reaction saves, distance saves.
yeah,
It just, yeah, felt like there's no way you're getting past this wall, and you're created. And good job recreating the greatest defense in Premier League history between
yeah,
Terry and Czech.
yeah,
Again, um, I'm in a way I'm extremely happy you picked Czech because you didn't pick the player I desperately wanted. But in another way, I'm extremely sad because it looks like I'm not going to get any of the Chelsea players I wanted because I kept thinking you weren't going to draft them.
I mean, you picked Henri and Vieira, and I was like, man, like,
Yeah,
what do I do now? So
yeah, yeah. So it took away. Czech was someone I was assuming I would get in this
Yeah,
round, but all good. I do think Czech is slightly ahead of the other goalies in terms of
yeah,
his career. Okay, it's my turn to
yes,
pick, right? So, as much as this pick I want to be Eden Hazard, I just cannot, because there's another player who I want for that attacking midfielder position. Probably, I'm actually surprised he hasn't gone yet. Um, Feels like a no-brainer and just feels like as much as Hazard was my favorite player to watch, how can I not pick the bald, the bald at 21 or
oh
whatever
god,
rocket,
oh god,
and he can play basically any position on the pitch.
yeah,
A lot of the descriptions for Gerard apply to this man as well,
yeah, yeah,
except he just scores a lot more goals and is a bit better going forward. I think might have been the greatest of all the Manchester United players um, in the Ferguson era in some ways. At least Ronaldo maybe peaked higher, but very close. I'm going to go with the illustrious former Derby County manager
shit.
in Wayne Rooney.
Yeah, I left him for later because I was like, man, he's got Henry, Kane, Bale.
Yeah,
Who,
so
where's he gonna fit in anyone else? And I was like,
so
yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
fine.
go
Okay.
for like a 4-3-3. Two midfielders, attacking midfielder in Wayne
KDB and
Rooney.
Rooney.
Yeah, so
Okay.
basically, yeah, a lot of pressure on Vieira to keep the pace, but then
Okay.
KDB and Rooney, because both of them do enough defensively. They're not like
Yeah.
invisible defensively.
Yeah.
Um, it just feels like there's just too much talent in that man to not draft him, and he's
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
way too much in the Premier League.
Yeah.
It's uh, like, what is he? He's number 3 on the goal scoring list, number 4 on the assist list.
Yeah.
Could put in a shift defensively, could play any position. Felt like you could just roll out of bed and be better than everyone.
Yeah.
I think I remember hearing a story about when he first went to an Everton practice and he was nervous at like 15 or 16, and then he shows up and he's like, "Wait, am I already better than all these guys?" Um, that
Yeah.
level of insane talent.
Yeah.
Career got cut short a little bit,
Yeah.
um, but just incredible player,
Yeah. Yeah.
versatile. Just
Just crazy
roll him out
player.
of bed and put him on a football pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a crazy player. Like just sheer terrifying. Rooney is like Brock Lesnar in the sense that you're not just like afraid about losing the match or whatever. You're actually physically scared that this guy is just gonna tear into you and just like rip you shred to shred. Just because he was that intense, but he was so good. Man, he was so good. And again, right, I think he dragged United through certain eras. He's one of the few players that Ferguson actually was very sort of flexible to sort of keep, because like Fergie's will was absolute, but with Rooney he decided to be a little bit more flexible. Not just because United
Yeah,
weren't in a great position then, but also because Rooney was that good and that's special because he could play in midfield, like you said, he could play midfield, left wing, right wing, and he would do all of that so selflessly for the benefit of the team. When any other player with that level of talent could have just been like, I'm the main man, I will be the main man, let everyone else play around me, but he never did that, and that I think is testament um, to how good he is. I feel like he's underrated. I think he's a really good player, and he's like top 5 Premier League players of all time, arguably. And I don't think people really talk of him in that vein, just because Wayne uh, is not as refined or as polished as some of the post Pep players. Like he's not going to play in a
yeah,
Guardiola side, and that's why I think people tend to underrate him, just because his touch is not the cleanest and stuff like that. But like insane player.
absolutely insane player. One of
Yeah,
just hard to deny his impact on a pitch. Could show
yeah,
up and big games, small games, just
yeah,
absurdly good.
yeah.
Uh, Now with my next pick, it comes to with center back because there's no point of drafting a left back or a goalie at this point. Um, there are quite a few choices here, I think, but the man I'm going to go with is going to be managing a Premier League team this year. Sorry, not a Premier League team this year, a Bundesliga team this year in one of the most shocking
Oh,
managing hirings that I can remember.
yeah.
But I'm going with Vincent Company. Um,
Wow.
I
Wow.
was debating between forward players, and I'm sure all four will be in your mind, so there's no point of mentioning them, between Vidic, Ferdinand, Carvalho, and company.
Okay.
So those were the four I was considering for the second center back position with Van Dijk. Um, it's but I ended up going with company. He will be the team captain, United Belgium as well. Not that that led to much winning, but um,
They came
s-
close.
they came close. Forceful personality, great center back.
Yeah.
Probably him and Toure are the ones who really started that
Yeah.
City era under
Yeah.
Pep, along with Aguero. Um,
Yeah.
but I felt like he is a more complete, slightly more complete center back than um, Ferdinand and Vidic. Uh, Carvalho had a bit more finesse, but I'm sticking to my brute power theory
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sticking Company and Van Dijk next to each other.
Yeah. No. Vincent Company, I think the only thing that you could really argue against for him is his fitness. That's really
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
But otherwise, when he was on the pitch, just fantastic defender, fantastic leader, great sort of moment with the Leicester goal.
yeah.
Yeah, just a really really good player, right? Just a very lucky manager.
Very, very lucky manager. I don't really understand what's happening there.
Yeah, I think Bayern are just like going through their weird Chelsea. They're going through a banter era. Let's hope so, right? Because I mean,
Yeah,
it'll be nice to see like the
it's been
Bundesliga
long
get some.
enough.
Okay, so I actually had a lot of debate about this position because you picked my number one choice for it, then you picked my number two choice for it. Um, so then I thought about three players. I considered three players for this position. The first one I was least inclined for because though I felt he was the best player, I didn't think he was the best number nine. You picked him, Wayne Rooney. Um, the reason I also would, and the reason I actually have always had hesitations about picking Rooney in any all-time 11 is I feel like he's not as good an attacking midfielder as the other attacking
As
midfielders. I
others,
feel like he's not as good a winger as the other wingers. I feel like he's not as good a center striker as the other strikers. Even though as an overall player, he might be better
he
than all
might
of
be
them.
better. Yeah,
So,
no,
so I was just like, hey, like that was my thing. So between the other two, right? One player had the superior record, but I hadn't watched him. So it was like, oh, look at his goal scoring record, all-time Premier League scorer. But that felt a little disingenuous. Like I haven't watched Alan Shearer, so why would I pick him and just like for the sake of winning the argument? I don't want to sort of
yeah,
pick somebody just because be like, oh, because like then I can pick Dennis Irvine and be like, oh, he played left back, right back, he scored so many goals. I didn't see the guy, right? Um, this guy I saw. This guy was really good. This guy was a big game player. I mean, if you look at his goal scoring record against the Big Six, it's crazy.
mm.
This guy turned up every single season. Again, towards the end of his season, like towards the end of his Premier League sort of tenure, like company, he had fitness issues. The highest foreign goal scorer in Premier League history, the biggest clutch moments player in Premier League history, the owner of the greatest Premier League moment in
Moment.
history. It's Aguero. Yeah, yeah. I
Aguero.
mean,
Yeah,
yeah. Just like I think again, right? As far as players go, really underrated because um, he doesn't look that that good. Like if you compare him to a Thierry Henry, a Harry Kane, a Rooney, he's not physically that imposing. Even though he's like stocky and like whatever 5'8", 5'9". But inside, even from outside, but inside that 6 yard or the penalty box, just deadly, right? Nobody was a better finisher than this guy because all he needed was a millisecond to shoot. I don't, and I've watched Aguero for like 8, 9 seasons because I had a lot of free time in college. um, this guy doesn't have bad misses. Like
yeah,
it's on target or it's blocked, but he's not missing. He's not missing.
yeah,
It's you need to stop this guy. You can't hope that Aguero shoots it just wide. It's not happening, bro. It's not happening. Just because he's so good at getting himself into position where if he were missing, he'd have a highlight reel like Raheem Sterling. And he's just so phenomenal. Left foot, right foot. Again, right? Not the most versatile player, not the most complete player. You wouldn't want him, you know, in say playing from like the middle third and stuff like that, and he's not going to do that. But if you have players like Yaya Toure, Lampard, Gerrard, Ronaldo, and Salah who can pretty much cover the entire pitch. You have this focal point here who's just going to lap up those chances, right? I mean, Lampard deflections into Aguero for him to just like tap in goal after goal is a nightmare for most defenders. Yeah, so yeah, I was just like again, I had his Wikipedia open. Um, multiple 20 plus goal seasons. How many? One,
Yeah.
two, three, four, five, six 20 plus goal seasons. And the seasons where he didn't have 20 plus goals, like he was basically unfit. So, except for one where he played 30 games and he had only 12 goals. But again, I don't know how many of them were starts. But every other time, just crazy consistency. 184 Premier League goals in 275 games. Again, like crazy ratio, right? So yeah, Aguero is my pick for center forward.
Aguero felt undeniable.
Yeah,
It was very frustrating. Yeah, if you see like there was the City Tottenham match recently where Son missed that one-on-one.
yeah,
It felt like Aguero never missed that one-on-one.
yeah,
I mean, Son generally also felt like he never missed that one-on-one, but Aguero's like, okay, as soon as he's in the right position, it's a goal. Like you don't even
yeah,
need to think about it. Again, a striker who's like the opposite of Nicholas Jackson, where you're just like, oh, you have no idea what to expect. With Aguero, you have every idea what to expect. Left foot, right foot. Even though he was smaller, got a lot of headed goals just
yeah,
from sheer like awareness and positioning. Um, yeah, for not a very tall striker, it felt like he would just pop up in the middle of nowhere and just get his head on the ball as well. Uh, Also, watch him a lot during my peak Premier League watching era. Uh, I think the main concern was always fitness. It felt like
yeah,
he could get injured at any time. But apart from that, one of the best strikers. I would say yeah, very like, what do you want a number nine to have? And he just had
yeah,
all of those qualities.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. Um, cool. So my next pick, I mean, I have a center back and a right back left, so it really is like just pick whatever because I don't think you're gonna pick any more center backs or right backs. So I'll go with the center back just because we've been speaking about them. So the people I was considering alongside, so John Terry was my first pick. I wanted John Terry, and in an ideal world, it would have been Terry and Vidic. Sorry, not Vidic, Van Dyke.
Yeah.
Um, but the backups I had considered were Vincent Company, Nemanja Vidic, Sol Campbell, and this guy who I'm picking, Rio Ferdinand.
Hmm.
Um, because compared to the other centre backs and compared to the centre back that I have, John Terry, he was the ball
Very
playing
good on the
centre back
ball.
before ball playing centre backs were a thing. He had pace to burn,
Yeah.
finesse. Um, like the only complaint you could have is 'cause sometimes you could get a little casual just because of how good he was. So he might just like have an occasional slip of concentration, but that was really rare. Like he was part of the defense that had the longest sort of clean sheet streak in Premier League history.
Yeah.
Him, Van der Sar, and Vidic and Evra and whoever was right back. I think it was Gary Neville then. So yeah, Rio Ferdinand over these other centre backs just because of the ball playing ability, but also longevity in the Premier League. Right, just phenomenal player. He's one of those players where he was ahead of his time. Where if he was in this era, he would be 100 million centre back, and people would have been paying like whatever. He used to. I think he started off at West Ham or Leeds. I think one of the two. West Ham, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, people would have been paying 100 million to get Rio Ferdinand like into Man City or Liverpool or Arsenal or whoever, right? People would be paying that much money and nobody would be batting an eye. They'd be like, oh yeah, he's like Van Dijk. It's the same. He's going to be a transformational signing for whoever gets him. So yeah, Rio Ferdinand is partnering his England teammate. I realized that I have a lot of England players. I have like Lampard, Gerrard, Terry,
Yeah.
Ferdinand, Ashley Cole, full golden
You're
generation in my
recreating the golden
yeah,
generation.
yeah,
I
yeah.
wonder if that has to do around when we started watching football as well.
I think it's also a lot because you picked, like, for example, you picked KDB and Vieira,
Yeah.
and yeah, so I had to pivot.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, definitely. I think yeah, Ferdinand, probably the first of like that real ball playing center backs, at least in the Premier League.
yeah,
Um, Perfect counterpart for Terry. You get the finesse, you get the brute force. I think in that way, Ferdinand and Vidic were very similar to Terry and Carvalho, where you had like the one bully and the one finesse player. And yeah, I think you've picked. the better bully and the better finesse player in the two partnerships. So definitely a very, very complementary combo, I think, from the back.
Yeah, thank you. Because you picked Thierry Henry, so
Yeah.
you got Thierry Henry, man. Huh? So
Okay.
yeah,
So I have my last two picks now.
yeah,
One will obviously be a goalie.
yeah,
Honestly, don't feel very strongly about this pick. Was debating between three players. I wish Courtois had a couple more seasons in the Premier League. Otherwise, I would have picked Courtois easily. But only 4 seasons, which is a little short.
yeah.
So I'm
Especially
gonna,
for goalkeepers.
especially for goalkeepers. So basically, it comes down to the two United goalkeepers or Allison.
Yeah,
So between the three, Allison's definitely the best ball playing goalie. I'm gonna go with Allison. I want a ball
bam,
playing goalkeeper.
bam. Yeah, yeah.
Um, because I'm gonna do something a little weird with my last pick.
Okay.
Uh, so I want the best ball playing goalkeeper apart from Ederson.
Yeah,
Incredible shot stopper,
yeah,
part of the spine of the defense,
yeah,
reuniting Van Dijk and Allison,
yeah,
the nightmare
yeah.
duo. Um, but I think that'll bring me, unless you have something to say about Allison, I don't think there's
I
that
mean,
much to add.
honestly, all said and done, best goalkeeper in the last, like ever since he's come to the Premier League, the best goalkeeper we've had.
Yeah,
And I think, I mean, Liverpool play a much more high risk style than Chelsea did, but I think when his career is done and if he stays in the Premier League and he keeps up this level, he'll
he'll be,
basically be like the Ashley Cole of the goalkeeping position.
yeah, yeah,
Just like number one there, like no debate.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. And um, yeah, hard to think of uh, any real separation between the goalies. So Allison, as a better ball player, helps me with my last pick. So I kept going through the left backs, and I don't like any of them. So I have decided we are now going to be playing a 3-4-3 instead of a more classic four at the back. So my wingers will be Gareth Bale and Wayne Rooney. I'm not sure how exactly that'll work on the left mid and right mid. So I'll need some more defensive solidarity in the middle. So I'm going to pair up Mr. Yaya Toure with one of my favorite players of all time, N'Golo
Golo.
Kante.
Yeah.
N'Golo to cover up all that space between
Yeah.
N'Golo and Kyle Walker. We should have some of the best at covering space in the world. So um, I'm gonna change up the formation a little bit with uh, I'm not exactly sure what the team is going to look like. It's going to be a lot more of like a pep, everybody,
Yeah.
uh, three at the back, two solid defensive midfielders, and then go from there. Uh, so Kante, one of the um, things that I don't think gets talked about N'Golo Kante as he moved forward was how good he was at carrying the ball.
Yeah.
Especially in the Conte era, he really evolved in that way.
Yeah.
My team is turning into a bit of a Frankenstein, but I feel like there's enough talent and versatility there that we can make it work.
Yeah.
And the difference between having an N'Golo Kante on the team and like a Patrice Evra is just massive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no disrespect to Patrice Evra, but
No
yeah, I mean,
disrespect to Patrice Evra,
yeah, yeah,
but you think this guy won a Premier League title with with freaking Danny Drinkwater as his midfield partner?
yeah,
Um, and then coming back, doing it at Chelsea, one of the greatest, I think, Champions League runs as well was him dragging us
yeah,
to dragging probably one of maybe the worst Champions League title winners.
yeah,
Um, but it
yeah,
was really Conte in every single one of those elimination games
yeah,
showing up.
yeah,
One of my favorite things about that run was I think Manchester City's Twitter account during the game being like, "Oh, we finally got past Conte once." When the other team during the game social media account is like, "We can do nothing against this person," it just shows the level of impact
yeah,
that he
yeah,
had.
yeah. I mean, N'Golo Kante is N'Golo Kante. I mean, um, just a phenomenon, man. Like just when he was, I think his peak was not as long as some of the others, but
Yeah,
like when your peak is that crazy, I think it's understandable because he was like having two players on the pitch.
yeah,
And yeah, I mean, like you said, winning the title with Leicester and then being the reason Chelsea won the title the next season, just yeah, phenomenal player. Um, just yeah, I mean, just so good, man. Like there's no real things to say about Ngolo that you haven't covered.
Yeah, I'm. It's putting me into like some weird Pep in the finals
Yeah,
formation, but
yeah,
apart from that,
yeah,
the talent was too hard to
yeah.
deny.
No, that's fair. Okay, so my final pick is going to be a revolutionary for my right back position.
Oh,
Right, right. I know it's a controversial opinion because people say, "Oh, Gary Neville's won 8 Premier League titles." Great right back. Really good right back. Very functional. Really good
very
right back.
functional. Yeah,
In an era where fullbacks were not that important, he was a good right back.
yeah,
Let's give him that and let's move on, right? Because nobody's like when we talk about Ashley Cole, we're talking about he's as good as Maldini and Roberto Carlos and stuff like that. Nobody's saying Gary Neville's up at the level of
no,
Cafu
no,
or Kyle Walker even, right?
yeah,
Because but here's the thing: this guy is the revolution behind the fullback position. This guy has revolutionized the position, and he's what, like 23, 24 years old.
yeah,
Um, it's Trent, right?
yeah,
Trent Alexander-Arnold is my right back. Um, it was basically like I was like I'm going to pick Kyle Walker if I can because he's like the number one sort of Premier League right back. But the reason he's number one is because Trent hasn't gotten a full Premier League career done yet. That's really it, in my opinion. The way Trent is, it's he's just a phenomenon, man. This guy is what he does from right back, the amount of assists he gets, the free kick taking ability. He's not bad defensively. It's just that there's so much offensive responsibility on him that sometimes he gets isolated. But that's what John Terry and Petacek
yeah,
and fucking Rio Ferdinand and Ashley Cole are there for, right? Like Trent can bomb forward. These guys can shift. You got Yaya Toure manning the midfield. Trent is my right back pick. So my strategy is really just to use Trent and Gerard and these guys to play over your team. So guys are big, great. We're gonna run past you with Salah and Ronaldo and just like crossfield balls after crossfield balls to these guys. And if you slip up, there's Lampard and there's Aguero just to capitalize, right? Literally, when we are dead and there's like football books written 100 years from now, and people be like, oh, Trent Alexander, like inverted fullback, like the Michael Cox of that era will write a book about football, and it'll be like, okay, Trent Alexander Arnold will be a footnote there, but he will be the footnote that basically introduced the concept of the ball playing fullback, inverting fullback as a midfielder, fullback as a Formula One driver, all that jazz. It started with this guy. So yeah, he's my Premier League right back because just because of the impact he's going to have in the future and what he's already done as well. Like, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Premier League winner, Champions League winner, most assists by a defender in a season. I mean, he's got the credentials. So yeah, it's not like I'm picking some guy. Like I'm not picking Kobe Mainu or
yeah.
like Federico Makeda because they scored like one goal or played like a few games well.
No, no. I mean, again, a FPL legend in
Oh
Trent.
yeah, yeah,
No, yeah, I think definitely revolutionary, changed the expectations based out of the position. All the memes about his defense feel a little overblown, just because they play such a high risk style at Liverpool, um, and can see passes that nobody else can see. That
yeah,
whippage, it's just seeing that those whipped passes from Trent is just gorgeous. Some of his free kicks are ridiculous. You're gonna have a
yeah.
big fight in terms of who takes the free kicks
Oh yeah,
between everyone on the squad.
yeah.
Um,
I think
but
that's
yeah,
true for you as well.
undeniable. Yes.
Who would be your set piece taker? Because you have who? You have Bale, Kane, Henry, um, and KDB, and who
KDB.
else?
I mean, I think any left foot will go to Bale.
Yeah,
Rooney's also not bad.
yeah.
Right foot, probably KDB, just slightly over. Actually, KDB's free kicks
I think KDB is
are
more a delivery free
fine.
kick. I think
Yeah,
like for finishing, I would take Thierry Henry's free
I think
kicks.
Thierry Henry's free kicks might have actually been better than KDB.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, for sure. Yeah, I think for me
But
it's like
Bale definitely for anything
yeah,
left
Bale
footed.
for left foot. For me, left foot is Salah, and then I
Yeah.
have Trent, Gerrard, Lampard,
Huh.
and Cristiano Ronaldo, and even Yaya Toure for right
Yeah.
foot. I'll just tell Ronaldo to chill out.
Yeah.
And be like, yeah, you had that good couple of seasons. So if you're that Ronaldo, then fine. I think I can ask Lampard to chill out. It'll be like between Gerrard, Toure, and Trent. And I'd probably give it to Trent or Gerrard. I think I
Trent.
don't know.
Or yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, fair. The
yeah,
Liverpool boys, if only they could have played together. Oh,
yeah.
very
So
nice.
yep, I've given Lampard the number 10. Told Trent to like fuck off with the 66 bullshit. You're a right back. Take your
You're
number
right
two.
back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't like all that. I like my 1 to 11.
Okay.
So very old school that way. So Ashley Cole's my number three. Trent is number two. Terry and Ferdinand in defense. Yeah, you can see there's a very strong 2000s vibe. How many? One, two, three, four, five, six, 7 players from that era, and then you got 4 20 10 players. Yeah, so you've got Lampard, Gerrard, Yaya Toure in midfield, which I think is a very I think it's not the most technically clean midfield, but it's very dynamic and really sort of ball winning, ball hungry, blood and thunder sort of midfield. Lampard is a little bit cleverer, so I think Yaya Toure and Gerrard can get into all the duels, and then Lampard can just come
Yeah.
and just like clean up from there. But again, he was also like pretty intense with his duels. It's not like he was just sitting there. And then yeah, Salah and Ronaldo I think are the two sort of best wide men that the Premier League has seen. So I'm very happy with that. I would have liked it to be Henry or Kane, honestly, but I have no qualms with Aguero being my number nine. But yeah, I mean, this is my all-time Premier League 11 draft.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. I think it looks like a very complete team. Little less of a Frankenstein monster than mine.
Also, because I don't know how this works, credit to mygreatest11.com for letting us use their
For letting
platform
us do
to,
this whole thing. Yes.
yeah. So I think the interface could be a little better, but like, thank you anyway, because it's free, which is the most important thing.
Yes. Let me share my screen. Uh, so Allison at the back, the three central defenders in Kyle Walker, Company, and Van Dijk.
Yeah,
Conte and Vieira protecting them.
yeah,
And then Rooney and Bale bombing up and down the wings,
yeah,
KDB in the middle, and Harry Kane and Thierry Henry up top,
yeah.
finishing everything off.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if you could have played a different formation. Would you have considered? I mean, I'm just asking, not for anything else. Would you consider playing a 4-2-2-2 where your back four has Bale as left back?
Yeah,
You have Kante Vieira as your two sitting midfielders and Rooney and De Bruyne as your two attacking midfielders, and then Henry and Kane.
yeah.
Uh,
A 4-2-2-2 is it's actually my go-to FIFA formation. So
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
definitely.
So like,
I think it's the best formation in FIFA.
I think it's 4-1-2-1-2.
Yeah.
Um, it's not very different to be fair. I think you end up with a very similar play style.
Yes.
Um,
4-2-2-2 just gives you a little bit more width with the attacking midfielders a little wider.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, no, definitely. I was thinking about it. It's just I like talent. I'm like talent will figure things out to some
yeah,
extent,
yeah,
and there are a few versatile players here like Rooney who I think can plug in some gaps. Rooney,
yeah.
Walker.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean for sure, right? I think you have a little bit more jazzy feel to your. I think I have more jazzy players in the sense that they
Yeah,
might be a little bit more freeform, but you have a more jazzy structure. Actually,
yeah.
no, you have very jazzy players as well. Rooney, Kane, Bale, De Bruyne,
Henry.
Henry. Yeah, I mean these are like very jazzy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean
It's
if
like
we,
the team has like five very solid, no nonsense players in Walker, Company, Van Dijk, Conte, Vieira, and then
yeah,
five like we do whatever the hell we want
yeah,
players.
yeah, yeah.
So
What we,
last couple of questions. So
yes.
who, if there's anyone you could have added to the team, who would it be? So like your 12th man super sub, or
Ooh,
just who would you want on the team?
yeah, no, that's a good question. Who would I want on the team? That's a good question. I think defense-wise, I'm very solid. I don't think there's anyone there that I really want to add or remove. Um, I think in terms of attack, I think see my answer for attack would have just been if this guy played like 2 3 seasons more here, it would have been Luis Suarez.
Yep.
Like just easy answer, but just because he's only here for 3 seasons, I'm not going to count him. In which case, you know, maybe David Silva, because
Hmm.
like I feel like again, like I think he's one of the more underrated sort of players of the City era where KDB is really, visually
Yeah.
striking as a midfielder. Aguero got goals. Company was physically imposing. Kyle Walker, Yaya Toure, again, right? They catch the eye. David Silva was just technically just masterful and just untouchable technically. No fuss, no frills, right? Like he
Yeah.
would have, like the thing is, if you put him in this midfield, you'd have probably been in the midfield and you'd have been like, oh, what do you mean David Silva? But actually, I think he would have probably outperformed pretty much every midfielder we picked on his day. Like in a system, just sheer technical press resistance, passing movement intelligence. Yeah, probably David Silva, maybe. I don't know.
David over Bernardo.
I think in terms of, yeah, I think again, like, yeah, probably. I think Bernardo has more versatility. I'll give him
Yeah,
that. What about you? Is it
easy.
Hazard?
Eden Hazard
Yeah.
over. I might have even chosen him over Bale. I was like not
Yeah.
fully sure. I felt like Bale Hazard just had a couple of seasons where he went and didn't play to the same level.
Yeah.
But then again, like his Sarri season is, I think, as good as anything Bale did.
Yeah.
So easily
Yeah.
Eden Hazard.
Yeah, no, I think Hazard is a great shot. I was expecting him to be your left winger. I was
Yeah,
expecting
yeah.
this to be a 4-3-3, and it was going to be like,
Hazard.
so once you
Yeah,
picked Henry, I was like, okay, it's going to be Hazard left wing, Henry center, and then probably
someone.
Bale right wing.
Yeah,
I mean, fairly even.
yeah.
I think if if our billions of listeners and millions of of viewers were to chime in, I think they'd pick your team just because I think you have the bigger, sort of more blockbuster names.
I don't know. You
Um,
have Ronaldo, and Ronaldo has a lot of fans.
yeah, but you have Rooney, Henry, Kane, and De Bruyne. I have
Yeah.
Salah and Ronaldo. I feel in terms of star power, like
You've
sheer
got
star
the
power.
Saudi and Egyptian markets on lock.
That's true. That is true. And maybe the Portuguese market also.
True, true.
Um, I also might have, like, like boomer Englishmen on my side because I got like Gerrard,
Yeah,
Lampard,
yeah,
Terry, Ferdinand, Cole. They're all like,
yeah. You
like,
do.
yeah, yeah. Just need
Neither of
Beckham in there.
us
Yeah.
considered Shearer.
I did for a while once you took Henry and Kane, but like I said, I mean, I haven't watched the Premier League when Alan Shearer, like Alan Shearer retired like a couple of seasons into when I started watching the Premier League. Like he was playing
Yeah.
for Newcastle and he retired. I didn't want to get into a, oh, you know what, Alan Shearer is such a great player when I haven't really seen the guy. Like, what'll I say? Like, I look at his stats and be like, okay, again, phenomenal stats, but I haven't seen him, so that's why I didn't consider him. I don't know what your logic was.
Yeah, same. Didn't really see him. Whatever I saw of him, I mean, he seemed like a great poacher, but he seemed like a better version of like Van Nistelrooy. Like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
in the right
yeah,
position, scores goals, but not someone
yeah.
who's gonna dominate. And I don't know if like FIFA biases me because he's useless on FIFA. So yeah,
Okay. Oh yeah, there were players I did consider though, which whom I haven't seen a lot of, but whatever I saw, I was like, okay, these guys are ballers. Cantona.
Cantona. Yep.
Cantona I considered. Um, I haven't watched Dennis Irwin a lot, but I read a lot about Dennis
Yep.
Irwin just based on the fact that I think Alex Ferguson named him as one of the few world class players, truly world
Yep.
class players he had managed. And again, like from what I read about him, it seemed like he was like the front runner for your Trents and your
Yep.
Leighton Baines and all that, right?
Yep.
So, like, again, if you had picked Ashley Cole, I would have been like, oh, you know what?
I
Maybe I'll
was
just pick,
considering. Yep.
yeah, maybe I'll just
Dennis
pick
Irwin.
Dennis Irvine. But
Yep.
again, right, it would have just been me being like, I don't really want to be that football guy who's like, oh, I know every single player in the history of time and I know
Yeah.
everyone and I've seen everything. What, bro? You don't think like Costa Curta is better than Baresi, bro? I don't know. I'll take
I,
your word for it. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah. I was considering gigs as well, just because of like
Yeah.
that career is insane.
Yeah,
Like,
the career is insane, but like, again, I've watched, like, again, I
but
acknowledge that
then you
maybe it wasn't his
watch.
peak.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you watch gigs, it's like, okay, he's a good player. Like,
Honestly, like you watch someone like Zola's or Cantona, they're so much better.
yeah,
Like, I mean,
yeah,
technically, they're just
yeah.
can do things that fit into the modern
Like,
era.
yeah, I was closer to Paul Scholes than Giggs. I was like, oh, because I've seen Paul Scholes, and I
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and let's be honest, Paul Scholes came out of retirement to win United a Premier League title, and then he retired again, and that's a
yeah.
baller move.
That is insane.
So I was like, shit. I mean, I should probably consider Paul Scholes, and I did. I did. You had asked if we were going to get like sponsors for our all-time 11 teams.
Yes.
Do you have a sponsor in mind?
Hmm. I was gonna do like a very random sponsor, like Lockheed Martin or something. Like we're gonna
What
fucking
is
blow you up. The number one weapons manufacturer in the world.
what are they called? Lock?
Lockheed Martin.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Dortmund fans are not gonna like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
fair enough.
Um, or I was thinking like, what is a product that I really like?
Yeah,
Uh, Hmm. I don't know. I asked the question and I don't really have a great answer.
yeah.
I was thinking, oh yeah, I think I have my answer now. Saravana Bhavan.
Saravana Bhavan.
Greatest 11, sponsored by Saravana Bhavan. Needs to be
Yeah,
something that people have heard of as well.
Sarvana Bhavan, not
Yes.
Saravana Bhavan.
No. Saravana Bhavan.
Okay, cool, fair. Is it because you really like Saravana Bhavan, or is it just like, oh, I'm just gonna take
I
Indian
like
food chain?
Saravana Bhavan, and yeah, if out of the Indian food chains is probably my favorite, so why not? And it's
Yeah,
globally, it's the present globally.
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, because I was watching the India-Pakistan match, so then I got all of the sponsored ads for all these weird Indian
Okay.
American brands like Swagat
Oh,
and all of these.
I will go for MTR because I use their
MTR,
sambar powder.
yeah,
So
no,
MTR sambar powder is good, guys. Go for it. Tried and tested, recommended by South Indians or like South Indian. So
yeah,
yeah. So yeah. MTR. I think it looks good also on like this MTR and like
yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah,
yeah.
would be a
Sir,
good logo.
yeah. So cool. MTR. So like MGK's all-time Premier
MGK's
League
MTR.
11, MGK's MTR 11, and Karthik Tayal's Saruna Bhavan 11. Yeah. Maybe they're named after those also. Like, yours is called like Saruna Bhavan 11 or something like that.
Yes,
I don't know.
Saravana's 11.
Yeah. The Bhavan 11. I don't
The
know.
Bhavan. I like Bhavan 11.
Yeah. Stadium could be called, I don't know, Bisibela Bowl. Yeah. Yeah. Bisibela Bowl. And then, I don't know, up the Rasam side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
up the
Rasam Field
Rasam
or
side.
something. Yeah. Rasam Field is probably mine because why not? And
Yeah,
yeah. MTR Boys. Something like that.
oh
I don't
yeah,
know. Yeah.
FC
Um,
MTR.
cool. That pretty much concludes FCMTR. Yeah. MTRFC. Yeah,
Yes,
that pretty much concludes our first ever Screen and Pitch project podcast episode. If you have been subjected to this episode and you didn't like it, it doesn't matter. Share it with your friends so they can suffer as well. Share it with your enemies so they can suffer as well. If you liked it, please like, share, subscribe, notify, all that other jazz that YouTube content creators do. But yeah, I mean, if you had fun watching this, spent a nice weekend just listening to us waffle on about like random Premier League players, you know come back next time. Maybe we'll have something else for you, like maybe it's about your favorite TV shows or your least favorite TV shows, or like characters you love or hate, or
yes. Characters that you like to that are good on TV, but you want to murder.
oh, there's so many.
Yeah.